Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Hey Jay, how's it going?
Hey, bro. I want to, everything's going good. I want to welcome everybody to this month's virtual town hall. As every month, we're trying to change up topics so we can get some good information circulated throughout the community. This month's topic will be funding your business. We're going to talk about some funding options, especially focusing on small early stage and startup businesses, because a lot of times it's hard to find funding for your business when you're in your early stages. So we'll be having a discussion centered around that. Of course, I'm Jay Reed, and I have my wonderful co-host April Ham with me. You heard her a little earlier. And for today's session, we actually have a special guest from Fund 17, Miss Miranda Hayes. Miranda, I hope I pronounced that right.
Yes, that's right. Hi, everyone.
All right. Thank you for joining us today, Miranda. Miranda's going to be talking to us about, of course, funding businesses. She works with Fund 17 with Capital Access, so she does have some good information on funding early stage and small businesses. So she'll give us a short presentation, and then as always, we'll open it up for discussion. So, Miranda, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself before you start?
Yeah, hi. As you know, I'm Miranda Hayes. And yeah, I'm a Capital Access intern with Fund 17. I've been with Fund 17 for a little while now. And yeah, my main role at the organization is helping entrepreneurs get funding through the Kiva platform, which we partner with. So I've been doing that for a little while, and I'll definitely talk about Kiva a little bit, as well as some other methods of funding and just what may or may not work for various small businesses. So yeah, ready for me to start presenting?
Yes, ma'am. I'm actually trying to send control over to you right now.
Oh.
All right. So you should have access now to go ahead and start sharing your screen.
Great. Okay. I do. Okay. Is this working for everyone?
It's showing up for us.
Okay, great. So yeah, I have a few funding methods for small businesses, of course. So I figured I'd start off with venture capital funding. This may not be the best option for many small businesses. However, it is an interesting opportunity that I think could be interesting for some small companies to explore. So venture capital is a form of funding where firms and individuals finance the growth of small companies in order to aid their growth and then eventually profit from their investment. So of course, venture capital firms will invest in companies in return for an equity stake. And there are angel investors, which are wealthy individuals, and institutional VCs, which are the larger venture capital firms. So for small businesses, an angel investor might be the better way to go, mainly because they might focus on a local economy, and they might also have very specific interests. So a small business would have a bit of an easier time finding an angel investor interested in their company rather than a larger venture capital firm. So yeah, it's just a quick introduction. And then how does it work? So you would first find the right firm or investor for your business, and this would generally involve searching, of course, the internet, really anywhere, for investors who are within your industry. So you would look for people who have invested in the past in your same industry. And you can find this information on quite a few platforms online. One good one is Crunchbase. So you can just go in and search for a specific industry and it will give you a list of investors who prefer that industry. And then of course, the next step would be making your initial contact, and you would want to set up an introductory call or meeting just to give them a better idea of what your business is all about. So if you are able to set up a meeting, you would set up a pitch deck, which would basically include all of the basics about your business. So it might be your management team, your market kind of problems and what your solutions would be to those, your investment amount needed, of course. You would need a lot about company financials. And then, so if the investor is interested after your pitch, they would provide a term sheet, which is just a list of terms for their investment in your business. So basically, VC funding works best for companies that have a founding team already, a quote, minimum viable product, which is just your initial product or your kind of service plan that gives them an idea of what you would be providing to their company and giving them an idea of what they're investing in. And then you also need an assessment of your customers or your market. So basically how effective your company would be in reaching the customer base that you're targeting. So yeah, basically you go through all that. Then you also would have to do a due diligence process, which is basically where the investors themselves would review your financials and just assess the risk of investing in your company. And then, yeah, if it all works out, they might make a proposal. And of course, like I said earlier, this is probably better for, this could still work for small businesses. However, it's better to find kind of an angel investor that has a focus in small businesses. But there's definitely a possibility of doing that. So yeah, just wanted to go over that. And then we'll get into crowdfunding. So crowdfunding is actually what I work on the most in Fund 17. That's also what the Kiva platform is centered around. So crowdfunding is a really good alternative to traditional banking loans, mainly because crowdfunding allows entrepreneurs to get, first of all, smaller loans for smaller interest rates. And then you also just have the opportunity to reach many individuals instead of going to, say, one bank and hoping that you get your loan. So yeah, crowdfunding can be a really good resource for small businesses, especially because there's so many platforms that kind of cater to different goals of crowdfunding. So mainly I'll talk about Kiva. So the Kiva crowdfunding platform is definitely ideal for small businesses. So it's online and it uses social underwriting instead of credit. So when you apply and you're trying to get the highest loan amount you can, let's say, they wouldn't use your credit score to determine that. So that can be a really great thing for small business owners who maybe haven't had a long credit history or just have had any kind of like debt in their past. This is a good way to avoid having to deal with that at, per se, a bank. So their social underwriting process basically entails the entrepreneur using their own network to initially find lenders who are willing to contribute to their loan. So that just allows Kiva to make sure that you are a trustworthy lender and that you have some incentive to basically pay your money back. So that's why they're able to not really use credit score, and also why they are able to provide zero interest loans. So that's another great thing about Kiva that makes it really flexible. You don't have your interest piling up over time, so you are able to be fairly flexible in paying it back when it works for you. It is monthly payments at a 6 to 36 loan term range, 6 to 36 months, sorry. So yeah, 15,000 is the maximum loan amount provided on Kiva. And it is mainly used for microloans. So many of the entrepreneurs on Kiva will have loans ranging from 3,000 to 6,000. That's not uncommon. So part of the social underwriting process is their private and public fundraising periods. So the private fundraising period is essentially where you find investors from your own private network, and then you have to essentially raise a certain amount of money through that private fundraising period and your own network. So then you can move into public fundraising and just crowdfunding in general on Kiva's platform. And yeah, this concept can be kind of strange sometimes, so I can answer any questions about that further, so I'm not talking about it forever. So yeah, those are the basics of Kiva and why it's really good for small businesses. I have a couple of examples here. Desmond and Jamie, they're both entrepreneurs who worked with Fund 17 while crowdfunding their Kiva loan. And yeah, they're both, I think they've both fully repaid their loan at this point. Yeah, they're both small local New Orleans food businesses, and I've met with both of them. And yeah, basically it works really well for people who need kind of a flexible funding method. Yeah, basically the Kiva repayment kind of structure is very flexible, so it can take some of that pressure off. Yeah, so I'm also going to talk a little bit about lending circles. So this is another thing that I've kind of researched in my time at Fund 17. So this information that I have right here is mostly from the Mission Asset Fund website, which is a Bay Area-based company that essentially just puts together lending circles, but this is information that is pretty common to most lending circle organizations. So it'll be about 6 to 12 people, and loan amounts are very small, possibly $300. So the way it works is that you have your group of 6 to 12 people, and everybody puts in an initial amount of, I guess, essentially investment lending. So each month, a member of the lending circle will receive the full loan amount, and then it just basically rotates around the circle each month until everybody gets a chance to have that loan. This can also be kind of a strange process, but most organizations that have lending circles like Mission Asset Fund do have very specific instructions that can help make this a little bit clearer. So some pros of lending circles are that they allow for low interest loans like Kiva, and also credit building opportunities. So as I said, Kiva doesn't really use credit score in their determining process for the loan amount. And lending circles give you a pretty good chance to improve your credit score if it's not where you would like it to be, because you can do credit reporting through many of these organizations. So if you're doing these small loan amounts and you're kind of in this supportive lending circle, it's just essentially easier to have pay back your loan, and build up your credit score over time. So some cons of the lending circles, though, are that they work best for people who would like to borrow more than one time, as the trust between the borrowers is important, and it can lead to greater opportunities for borrowing and lending in the future. So if you were thinking of just getting a microloan one time, lending circles might not be the best idea. And also, the lending circle process is fairly time intensive. So if you were looking for kind of a quicker loan that you maybe need in a time sensitive period, lending circles might not work that well because it is rotating. So it's each month that somebody different gets their loan. So yeah, that's just a few things to consider. And then I just thought I'd mention small business grants also. There are, of course, a ton of resources online, and I have a few listed in the next slide. So some things that are important for small business grants, of course, having a solid business credit score, and then confirming very well that your business matches the grant qualifications. So that might be like the maximum business size. There are a lot of grants that specifically cater towards small businesses. So there would be a max amount of profits, I believe, that you would have to be under in order to qualify. You also need documentation like your personal and business income tax returns, a business license, and quite a few other things. But of course, the qualifications and documentation depend on what grant you're applying to. And then for your grant application, having a solid business plan that includes company description, management team, operation plans, marketing plans is a great way to start out, so you have a really good idea of how to explain your business and why you should get a small business grant. So lastly, I have the funding seed. This is just a good resource for learning about different types of funding in general, and they have an essentials of grant writing course. So this, I think there is a fee for this. However, this is just one example of resources online that give you a lot of advice about grant writing and finding the right grant for you. So yeah, the funding seed is where you can find this. This is definitely a website that Fund 17 recommends. And then finally, I just have some resources. Mission Asset Fund and Esusu are both lending circle organizations. Esusu is an app, I believe. And then the Small Business Association, grants.gov. Those are both good places to find small business loans, although their websites can be a little bit extensive and a little bit hard to find exactly what you're looking for, possibly. The Amber Grant Foundation is targeted towards women-owned businesses. There's also the National Association for the Self-Employed, and two other companies, nonprofits that Fund 17 has researched a little bit are Grameen America and Cabbage Small Business Loans. So these are two other organizations that have a lot of resources for finding funding and loans. So yeah, that is my general spiel about funding, and I'm happy to answer any questions about any of those things. I know some of them can need a bit of clarification. All right, that's all. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Great job on that presentation. That's some great information. All right. The one thing I wanted to ask you, Miranda, I know you kind of touched on it. Can you go more into it was in the Kiva loan. It slipped my mind now.
Do you mean the lending circles? Or
Oh, we were talking about in the Kiva loan. It wasn't credit based. It was more social.
oh yeah, you mean the social underwriting process?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Of course. So since Kiva, of course, has all of these flexibilities, they do need a way to make sure the entrepreneurs who are borrowing are, trustworthy, since that's what credit would be used for usually. So essentially, the private fundraising period is how Kiva implements social underwriting. So, for example, if somebody were to apply for a loan and get their loan application approved, then they would enter what Kiva calls the private fundraising period. So they would be assigned a certain amount of private lenders from their own background who they would need to have lend to their crowdfunding page or their loan. So for each kind of loan amount, there is a certain amount of lenders that one would need to get. So the bigger the loan, of course, the more private lenders one would need to find. So I think this can sometimes be a con of Kiva to many people because it does increase the amount of work that one needs to do within the crowdfunding process. So since you're not just applying and then immediately crowdfunding, it can feel a little bit like doing a lot more work for the same amount of money you might get on a different platform. However, I personally think that this can be a great opportunity for small businesses who maybe don't need a large amount of money, but mainly need to just get around the traditional loan system, especially since the Kiva crowdfunding platform is so tailored towards small businesses and entrepreneurs. And it works very well for most of Fund 17's entrepreneurs who often run into problems like having trouble with credit scores and things like that. So yeah, the private fundraising period, you would supposedly get your amount of lenders to donate, or get your amount of private lenders to lend to your crowdfunding page. And then you would move into public fundraising, which is basically just where your loan page is out there on the Kiva website and anyone can donate. So yeah, I think that's essentially the gist of it. Although, okay, one more thing to add. So the lenders you get within the private fundraising period, that amount of money that they lend to you is contributed to your loan. So once you get into public fundraising, you just have to raise the amount on top of what's already been raised by your private lenders. So it's not like two amounts that you have to raise. You just have to raise the first bit of it within your private lending network. So that is about it for private and public fundraising. If anyone needs more clarification, or just needs it phrased in a different way, anything like that, I can do that too, because I think this concept is a little bit weird at first. Okay, does that explain it well enough?
Yeah, I think that explains it well enough. Trying to think what else we have all gonna ask. But if anybody in the audience wants to ask a question, please feel free to write it in the chats, or since you're on a Zoom call, you do have the ability to unmute yourselves now. So if you want to ask a question, please feel free to just join on in. Now, one thing I do want to point out, because Miranda gave us some great information on funding sources. One tool that I do recommend anybody that's going into business or is in business that you get is the SBA's Business Resource Guide. It's a guide that is put together annually with a lot of contact information, a lot of good information in there on developing your business. And there is actually a whole section on financial institutions. So you can get, like I said, so you'll have the contact information and have some more information on different lending options that you have. Now, we do have one question in the chat. And I'm assuming this is for Miranda regarding the Kiva loan process. It says, what if you don't have private lending sources? How would you go about going through the process if you don't have private lending sources?
Yeah, of course. Sorry, I think I might have made that sound a little bit more official or more complicated than it actually ends up being. So by private lenders, what Kiva intends is actually just really anyone in your kind of personal circle. So it could be family members, friends. You also do get, once your application is approved, you get a private lending link to your page. So you can also use that on social media and things like that. So if you already have some kind of like customer email list or just customer contact info, you can send out that link. And of course, you can just give the link to friends or family. We have found that sometimes it seems a little bit stressful sometimes to be asking friends and family for a loan. However, the private lenders only have to lend a minimum of $25. And then of course that will be paid back as well. So it ends up being, I think, a bit easier than it seems, because you do only have to find pretty much anyone from your life who's willing to lend to your page. And then, yes, I will send the PowerPoint I'll send the PowerPoint to you, Jay, if that works.
Yeah, that'll work great.
Yeah, so private lenders just have to lend $25. And then however many lenders Kiva basically asks you to find, it's just that amount of people lending a minimum of $25. And then I'm reading.
Couple of things going.
Yeah, that's.
So I'm not sure about this answer off the top of my head. This is something I'll have to do some research on. Now we do have a question. I'm gonna give you all the whole statement. It says for grants, you need to have a favorable business credit score. Most of the suppliers I'm interested in purchasing products from are international. Does international suppliers report to Duns and Bradstreet or Experian and Equifax? That I am actually not sure about. That's something I'll definitely have to look into. If anybody has any information on that, you're welcome to join in. However, I will have to reach out to somebody. Miranda, do you have any thoughts on that?
Sorry, would you mind reading that question again?
Basically, does international suppliers report to Duns and Bradstreet or the Experian or Equifax credit bureaus? Basically, if they're purchasing from an international supplier, will that line of credit show up on their business credit score?
I think so. I just received an alert over my phone. It looks like it's gonna let you purchase hot food with your food stamp.
That is a good question. I'm inclined to say that it would possibly affect credit score, but I'm also not sure, so I don't want to say anything definite. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where international suppliers would report to in terms of credit bureau. So yeah, definitely needs a little more researching.
Yeah. Now we do have a comment from our friends over at the SBA. Keep in mind, sometimes we go to banks and ask for an SBA loan. It can have a negative connotation. Not sure how to get around that. I know a lot of times it's verbiage. Sometimes if you go to, basically what they're saying is sometimes we go to a bank and specifically say I'm looking for an SBA loan, the banker may take it as a bad loan, something that they may need to be worried about. My thought process on that is there's a couple of ways to approach it. Rather than asking for SBA loans, start out just asking for a business loan. And when they get actually to the loan products, ask about the SBA loan itself. Give the bank a time to learn more about your business and where you stand at financially and everything before you bring up the term SBA loan, just so they don't go into the conversation having this negative this negative image of what they're walking into. Why would the bank be wary of an SBA loan? That's a good question. They may have had with lenders. It can be different reasons. Most common is they may have had some bad experiences with people going for SBA loans. With the way the SBA backs the loans, they back it to make it more efficient and make it easier for you to get loans. But it may just be from the banker's experience that they may have experienced some bad SBA loans, whether the borrower didn't pay the money back on time, or a number of things. I've seen lenders shy away from different loans, and it's not just SBA loans. I've seen lenders shy away from different loan opportunities throughout my career, just because it comes across as something that they've dealt with before that didn't turn out well. Now, ultimately, many of those opportunities turn out to be good opportunities for lenders, but we're all human. Sometimes it's just we base our thought processes on things that has happened in the past.
So, Jay, this is Joe. May I add something?
Yeah. Hey, Joe.
Okay. Oh, hi. How are you? And you're right on target about that. And then the other part of it is that, yes, SBA is here to guarantee the loan, but you want to leave that decision to the lender as to whether or not they need to come to SBA for that guarantee. The lender is going to be more interested in your experience in the business that you're either proposing to start or if it's an expansion. But a lot of times what we hear from the lenders, from the commercial loan officers, is that they don't know the person. Okay, so this is, if you haven't established a relationship with that commercial loan officer, then this is their first time seeing you in terms of doing business with you as a business owner. So the relationship is important. So, and we just hear that sometimes. That's why I typed that in the chat. Sometimes we hear from lenders that when, you know, the business owners come in and they say, well, I want an SBA loan, immediately they think, okay, that this is a bad loan, that they can't do it on their own or something like that. So that's why we always encourage the business owners to talk to that commercial loan officer and, like you say, ask for a business loan. But when you go in, be prepared. Several times it was mentioned, Miranda mentioned the business plan in what she said. And when we say business plan, us being the layman, right, we work for the Small Business Administration, so what do we know, right? But when we say business plan to those who are proposing to start a business, sometimes we get a question about, is this really necessary? But that's your introduction to that commercial loan officer. And you want to be in a position to present as intelligently as possible what it is that you're proposing to do, but also how you're going to use the funds and how you're going to repay the loan. That's going to be some of the most important factors that they'll look for, because they want to know how they're going to get their money back. And you want to be able to show them how they're going to get their money back. And sometimes For some lenders, and like you said, Jay, sometimes it's bad experience. They've done an SBA loan, they've sent it to us, we've guaranteed it, and we've honored our guarantee. Our guarantee may have been 85%, and may have been 75%. So that meant that if we had to honor our guarantee, the bank was either in a position to sustain a loss of 15% or 25%, but it's still a loss. But if you go in and you talk to them about your business, who you are, what you're proposing to do, what you're bringing to the table, and this is what you have to show that you'll be able to generate sufficient income to repay the loan, that will go a long way. Your preparedness is critical. Thank you, Jay.
No problem. Thank you for the information. That was perfect. That was definitely perfect. So yeah, when you go to talk to lenders, and I'm gonna say this from a career salesman standpoint, it's just like you're basically going in there to sell the idea of your business to that lender. So if you're selling if take the lender out of the situation, you're selling your product or service, and you go in and you initially tell the person you're trying to sell it to, your potential client, that you have this real low price, you're lowballing your value rather than presenting the value first and then presenting the price. So basically, instead of going into the lender and saying, okay, I want the SBA loan that gives the highest guarantee, the loans that gives the highest guarantees, go in and just talk to the lender, present your case without talking lender products until it's time to talk lender products. You don't want to put the cart before the horse on that situation. But these are some great questions. Let's see if we have any more. Hey, April, are you there?
Hey, yes, I'm here.
See if you had any questions. I think I see somebody with a hand raised. Miss Lucas, do you have your hand raised?
Yes, hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. First of all, thank you guys for hosting this. This is wonderful. I've been looking a little bit into funding, and it seems very challenging for starting businesses with less than 1 year of an established record. So it's very hard to disclose finances when, we're really trying to get off of a run. And I wanted to ask the panel if they had more favorable funding opportunities for people in the specific situation. So recommendations, I suppose.
I would definitely recommend Kiva in that situation, specifically because Kiva does allow people to kind of use their personal story and things like that. So it's possible for you to still have a very strong application and give them a lot of good reasons why you might need a microloan. And I don't think that Kiva would really hold it against you if you don't have that much time in business. I think what they generally care about more is that you're using it for something good, and that you're able to basically be successful in crowdfunding. So having that strong application and just a generally inviting personal story that allows people to really get to understand what you're going for with your business. And yeah, I think Kiva and possibly lending circles could work just because they both don't require too much like large profit margins or anything like that. But yeah, that's all I have for recommendations.
I would just add about, well, I guess and really it depends on what your business is. But if you need a more substantial amount of money, to consider an angel investor. And I'm just, I mean, it's, I want to say that, of course, it depends on what you're doing and what you're trying to do, but that would be something to think about if you needed a more substantial amount of money and you felt that you were really onto something and just, needed more help getting started. Let me see who was asking that question. Do you mind telling us a little bit more about your business?
Sure. I'm starting an architecture firm.
Okay.
That's
Okay. So then that's really helpful to know, because then the other thing that I was going to suggest was like consulting and contracting, just so that you do have some money coming in. I don't know a lot about architecture and the different types of projects that you can work on. But I'm just kind of guessing that there's a range of skills and services that you can offer aside from, say, like your dream projects. And I'm sure you probably have thought of this, just in terms of getting started. And then say 6 to 12 months of showing that you have this specialized skill and can, command market rates for it or any amount of money, then you would have demonstrated that you have, or rather that your business can generate some revenues. And so the other reason that I was asking about, what type of business it is because, like she was kind of getting at with the personal story, the thing is that any type of lender, especially for early stage, they know that in those first years, they're investing in you. If you have something that's very specialized, then even if your business is only just being established, you have a, pretty strong track record. I mean, I'm not real sure how long it's, how much schooling it takes to become an architect, but I know it's relatively substantial, like you need to, pass certain exams and, all of those things. So your professional track record that you personally have does count in terms of establishing that sort of business where, you are the business, you're the consultant, you're building a firm around your specialization and your expertise. Jay, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do agree with that. And just to kind of piggyback off of what April's been saying and what everybody's been saying, in a case where your early stage business trying to get funding, one of the things that some lenders will look at is actually your personal credit, like April said, your personal history and stuff like that. And it's you can look at it in this aspect. It's kind of like when if you have a child, you're trying to get their credit started. Some banks ask for a co-signer on the business world. A lot of banks ask for a personal guarantor. Basically, just somebody that has a track record that can be utilized to say, okay, this person has a good credit history, so we can approve this loan based on this person being the company's personal guarantor, similar to like co-sign. Now, once you have started building your credit, you'll be able to move away from that guarantor position but that's just another aspect of trying to jumpstart your business credit, especially in early stage businesses. So like everybody's saying, even though you're just starting the business itself, lean on your expertise, your history to help sell the idea of your business success. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. That is fantastic advice.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's see. See if we have any more questions. Perhaps anything new? Amber, you have anything?
I was just going to say, just to everyone, I mean, I think that most of our audience are people who are, for different reasons, wanting to start, or basically are wanting to become self-employed. Like they're not looking to build a big enterprise. They're not trying to be the next Google or anything like that, but just, really, really looking for a way to sustain themselves, through, consulting, contracting, those sorts of things, possibly, having one or a few products that they're wanting to sell. And I think that for those types of situations, the different programs like Kiva and like sort of like crowdfunding that we've done a good idea. I do want to share like my background is a little bit more on the grant funding side and like fundraising versus for-profit fundraising, but it's very similar in the sense that, like Jay was saying before, you really are just looking to sell yourself. You're needing to educate your prospective funder about what it is that you have done before, what you're trying to do now, what you need in order to do it, and how they can help you to do it. Is just really a simple pitch, and you kind of want to develop different versions of that pitch. Say like a 30-second, spiel, a 2-minute, spiel, the so-called elevator talk, a 5-minute pitch, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and maybe even an hour-long presentation if you ever have the opportunity to present that. And so having these different ways of sharing and communicating what you're doing will not only help people to understand better what you're trying to do and how they may be able to help you, but it'll also help you to increase your confidence. In just, being confident that you know what you're talking about, but also it's easier said than done to explain to somebody else what your dream is or what your product or what your service is. And I think it definitely, unless you're really, has like a best friend as a marketing copywriter who really gets your product or your service, it really takes lots of drafts and lots of do-overs to really get your pitch done well and cater to all these different audiences, right? And so having those different versions ready to go and practice, then when you approach a particular type of funder, whether it's a private foundation or a bank or the people in your family, who can really totally be the toughest critics, you've got the right message for that audience based on the materials you already put together. And really, there's a lot of overlap, like we were talking about the business plan. that's a huge document. I mean, it can be short, but it definitely has to have all the different components, the marketing, the financing, all the different components. But the good thing about it is that once you have documented those aspects of your business, you can translate that into any type of application, whether it's a grant application, a loan application, a pitch talk for a Shark Tank. It's the same information every time. So, it definitely can seem daunting, but, we are here to help you, and we have, different programs happening all the time, so that as you work on these different aspects of your business documentation, you can have support in getting it done and practicing presenting it in the way that it needs to be for the particular thing that you're applying for.
All right. Now I do have some comments, and it's centered around getting assistance as far as looks like. Well, I'll read one out. A new entrepreneur with little knowledge of financial planning for business, and I want to be sure that my projections are realistic. You're actually in a good webinar, because just SCORE, Fund 17, and other organizations like ours, we actually assist. That's part of that's part of the assistance that we do. So we can review your projections, review your business plan. As Miranda said, Fund 17 works closely with the Kiva program and other funding sources. SCORE, we work with just about everybody in the area to help facilitate your business development. So one of the things we do encourage is connecting with our programs. If you need a mentor, you can definitely reach out to us to get us a business mentor to help facilitate the process. So if you need somebody to help go over projections with you, definitely reach out to us. And I'm trying to think of another source that they had. Another thing, when you're doing your business projections for financials, that's part where the business plan comes in, because in the business plan you do different analyses and you do research. One of the things that you have to do research on is your competition, and of course your industry. So what I recommend doing when you're doing your projections, look at your competition, look at industry statistics to see what your averages are, so you can kind of gauge your projections off that. When you're doing your projections, you want to be close to those averages, especially when you're starting off without data of your own, because you're not looking to be perfect, but you're just trying to be realistic. So long as you base it off of what's going on in the industries and what you see from your competition, you'll get fairly realistic projections. Now, one thing I do want to point out, the local libraries do have access to a lot of industry-specific resources. I know a lot of people don't go to the library as much as they used to, but that is still a great source for information, especially when you're trying to get industry-specific information, because they have tools that house a lot of that information for use, specifically for business use. So definitely look into that. But like I said before, if you want some assistance, definitely reach out to us, and I'll put up our contact information in a little while, because we definitely want to help. So I hope that kind of gives you a good direction to start out in.
Angel, I was saying that you want to start a school. Can you tell us a little bit more about the school that you're wanting to start, and is it a nonprofit? And do you currently have students enroll, or are you it's in the even earlier stages before you've enrolled any students? Oh, I think she may have actually left after that. Okay. Well, anyway, I guess just
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, so it's actually healthcare oriented right now. So the training that we provide is in CPR and other allied health programs. So they're not degree programs, but certificate programs where they'll be nationally certified once they complete the courses and test out. I do not have any students currently enrolled for the other programs. With CPR is up and running right now. I'm pending state approval for the other programs.
Okay, that sounds great. And are they paying a tuition or other fee to take the courses and get certified?
Yes, ma'am. They'll be paying tuition for those. And one other question you asked. No, it's not a nonprofit.
Okay. And so because you were saying that you're looking especially for sources of funding, say like for women business owners or other
Right.
okay. I'm trying to think. Jay or Miranda, do you know of any specific lenders for groups that are less represented, or do you kind of suggest still kind of focusing on something like crowdfunding through Kiva?
Jay or April?
Yes. Oh.
This is Barbara Holloway.
Oh, hey, Dr. Holloway.
Hi. I was just nosing around because I've had a couple people call us for that same reason over time, and I wrote some notes. This is a while ago, but one of the ones shows is that in order to start the school, of course, and I'm sure this person has already done that, a detailed curriculum, realistic business plan, course catalog, industry partners and advisors, and then startup capital, it says, has to be your own or a small business loan if possible, or what you all have been talking about is investors. So might be, as you're saying, the Kiva loan or even funding for that matter, but I would think probably to start small. I mean, I understand what you just said is you have some students right now are going to be certified as, is it, you said first aid or I'm not, CPR?
Yes, CPR first aid.
So wherever the delivery would be, and this is just my opinion, so for now, because you're getting started and the grant part is probably not there that I'm aware of, would be to start really small. Maybe don't think about, are you thinking about a brick and mortar site or all of that?
Well, actually, we're looking to become mobile. So
Okay.
there's,
Perfect.
yeah. So right now we have a couple contracts underway with private practices. We'll train their employees and make sure that they're compliant with all of the state and federal regulations and different organizations as well as individuals.
So I would think, and you all can jump in, I'll be quiet after this, is since you're mobile, you don't have the large overhead. So I would think service a couple of those contracts. So now you have realistic earnings to show on your financials, on your cash flow sheet, which Jay told you we have some of those. And then you can project a little bit from there, because initially the financial sheet it's really your best guess. So you have an opportunity, you're dealing with a little bit of real information and then some forecasted, I would say dream, but not in a negative way, but dream towards recruiting or securing. That will look realistic to a lender. And then that might be at that point, given those things, is where you might want to sit down with somebody, maybe a micro lender, Jay, depending on the amount, and start that conversation. And I would think those folks are, it wouldn't be an SBA loan, it'd just be a small business loan. But I would think whoever those lending agents are should have some type of knowledge and abilities, what they earn their salaries for, to be able to now work with you to strategize the type of loan or the amount that would be good for you, and maybe type, because they have different names these days. And then as you progress and you earn more, you know, you can graduate more. You will have learned then, I think, the process. Just my 2 cents.
No, you're.
Thank you.
Speaking of micro lenders, that, and I'm gonna go back to that resource guide that I told you about from the SBA. There are, I want to say 2 of them in there, Lift Fund, and I'm trying to think the other one that's still in there right now. But they do micro loans.
Yeah, Lift Fund does a little, I've heard, a pretty good job of working with the potential lender and, person who's applying for the loan, the client, in, you know, making sure the package looks the way it should. If there's any particular, like your financial projections, truing those up a little bit more for you. Obviously we can, but you know, I think that's what they love to do at Live Fund, is my understanding, because then their package, when they bring it to whomever those approvers are, pretty much addresses everything that they know the approver is going to be looking for.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I need.
And one of the things about Lift Fund is that they actually have programs that they've developed to, just like we have programs to help educate entrepreneurs, they have programs specifically leaning toward lending for entrepreneurs, and they do a lot for women-owned businesses. Just in the past couple of weeks, they opened up some of their educational sessions, and it was a lot for women empowerment. So that would be somebody to reach out to, especially if you try to go that route. The other participating micro lender is Newport.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, those are some resources that, again, that small business resource guide that I mentioned earlier that the SBA puts together for the state. That contact information is actually in that resource guide. And if anybody wants a copy of that, I do have some digital copies I can send out. So just let me know, and I'll send it out to whoever wants it.
Yes, I would like that, please.
Okay. Well, what I'll do, since I should have a list of everybody that attended, I'll be able to just send out a copy to everybody. It does get updated once a year, so I'll make sure that we have the most current one prior to sending it out.
Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Our pleasure. All right, so let's see. Do we have any other thoughts or questions?
You know what? Did you answer Angel's? I was looking. She wanted to know if there's a specific amount of capital that she needs before requesting funds.
Okay.
That depends on the lender, right?
It depends on different factors. It's definitely going to depend on the lender, but it's also going to depend on the amount of money that you're looking to borrow. I go with the 10% rule. Try to have at least 10% of what you're trying to borrow. Now, Miranda, April, Doc, y'all can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but about 10% should be sufficient to get the conversation going. I know in some cases 10% is what they're looking for as far as their investment. So it's really going to depend on what your capital needs are.
And too, what you want to use the funds for too, because it has to be realistic. Not that what you're doing is not, because it is. But as an example, let's say you want to purchase a building, and see, now you're getting into large dollars.
Yeah.
So you gotta
So
be careful about that.
it's gonna be, so there's definitely gonna be based on it's gonna be based a lot on the amount that you're looking for, the type of loan, because when you look at buildings, it can be a business loan, it can be a real estate loan. There's different options. But what it falls down to is the type of loan that you're getting, and really the amount that you're looking for.
Okay, thank you.
I know that New Orleans Foundation, was it New Orleans Foundation? You know what I'm thinking about, not that one. It's a business alliance, right? Has the databases in the city of all different types of businesses. The folks we went over on Poitras. What's the name?
That should be the Business Alliance.
Okay, because what I'm thinking is for your school, I don't know if you know that. Have you looked at other organizations in the city that offer the same type of product and services that you do?
Yes, ma'am. I've actually been employed by one for the past 5 years.
Okay, okay. So only reason I'm asking that is because usually, I think that demographic information is public. You could probably look at what, that organization's earnings and those kinds of things are I think you can look at some of that, so you can use that as an example or an idea or a comparison or something like that for you. That would probably help. But you definitely don't want to start real large in the beginning. This is a stepping stone, a building block. And I think what you're offering is valuable, it's worthy. There are a lot of individuals who can use that right away and get started on earning. The services are perfect that you're positioning them for. But I would think that would be the thing too. You're going to have to be it's going to be a strategy for you. And it should be fun, even though I understand the earnings are there and you got to be concerned about that. But the fun part should be that you're now making this your reality. You're building this. Every step that you do is something that you've done, and just gives you, just my opinion, more energy and a drive for what you're trying to do. As people will say, I built this, or it'll be eventually, this is the house that Angel built.
Absolutely, and it's something that I'm so passionate about and driven towards. And I can just scale the progress that I've made thus far, and it is rewarding.
Okay.
I just need help to catapult this business forward, and eventually perhaps some students' tuitions can be comped, or we can provide scholarships, but that would be well into the future after we're established. Right now, I just want to get established.
Yeah, and eventually up to Baton Rouge.
So.
Yeah, eventually up to Baton Rouge to maybe get yourself in a position where you're able to offer, what is it called? I think it was Pell Grants or something like that. That the people who have very low income, they don't have to pay back. And
right.
Yeah. So yes, it's doable. It's just the energy is going to be you.
Yes. And I like how you put that, Doc, that the energy is gonna be up.
Yeah.
You. That's one thing that I find a lot of entrepreneurs kind of shy away from. They shy away from being seen as the focal point of the company. But the thing that you have to understand, especially when you're in the early stage, you are the company. So
yeah.
people are going to base their opinion of your company on their opinion of you.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be willing to just get out there and get in front of everybody. And I'll be honest with you, it can be difficult because I'm naturally introverted. And Doc, you can attest to that.
No, I can't believe it.
Y'all fought me for so long to start getting in front of people and start talking. But it's just something you have to start doing.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I guess it helped me, not just doing these presentations, having these talks with everybody, but attending different networking events. And the reason that helped me is because I've gotten to the mindset of everybody's here for the same reason. So starting a conversation based off that subject matter should not be a problem. Everybody's here to meet somebody.
All right.
So if you have your 60-second pitch or your elevator pitch and you go to a networking event, use your pitch and do what every kid that you've ever met does. Start asking questions. Because everybody likes to talk about themselves and everybody likes to talk about the things that they like. I just went in with that mindset and I was able to start building new connections and actually getting out there made it a lot easier.
Yeah, and make sure, I know on your plan, you have a business plan, that you've added your personal experience, which helps the lender understand your passion. Just like Joe was talking earlier, and Jay, or even April, you want to make sure that, or everyone else on the call, that that lender understands your passion and that it's not just a dream, but it's a lived experience that now you want to realize with you being the driver as compared to you being the employee before.
Absolutely. That's exactly where I am. And I'll just to put it out there, like I have spoken with a couple different people who are potential investors. One though, however, in exchange for funding to get started, will like a portion of the company. And I'm just not sure if I'm willing to do that before we're even, established completely.
I wouldn't. That's just me. What do you guys think?
I wouldn't jump into a partnership right away. That's my personal preference. But I will always say go with what you're more comfortable with. Because I know some people that's what they look for in the beginning. They look for a partner.
Right.
But my feeling is if it's something that I have a passion for, that I specifically want to make this company work, I'll go without a partner first. And then if I have to add in a partner or an investor or something like that in exchange for something,
right, then
I'll cross that bridge. But I'll try to do it by myself first. And then there's different ways you can get help. Like I said, there's organizations like ours that are here to coach you and point you in the right direction. There's different resources out there. And so there's a lot of people out there that's going to help guide you in the right direction and help you make the right connections. So that's how I view it is. I'll do that first. I'll make the connections first that I can make without having to give up a portion of my company.
right.
And then once that's done, then I'll go to okay, maybe I need to give this % to this investor, this % to that partner.
And the reason I said it is because I think Jay's saying the same thing is, and it may not, listen, it could be fine. The issue is, what does that person want when the person says, well, I want to own a part of your company? So what does that person want? Does that person want to be a voice in the company, which might be an issue, unless the person is passionate like you and knows what you know. The person may be the point where he or she starts to then, excuse me for that ring, rule your business rather than you. Or there's some, if you don't reach a certain amount at a certain time, it could be, well, I'm going to take over the business. There's a lot to that. It might not happen, but I would list all of the negatives and then all the positives of having that. And then if you're really serious about that, or you're concerned, or you're desperate to that, not desperate in a bad way, but in a positive way, maybe you really want to talk with that person to find out real clearly, what is it that you want from my company? What makes you want to be a partner with me?
Right. And, I've explored those topics, and then the only response that I can really get is that, you know, with the drive and ambition behind it, it's bound to succeed. So just being a part of a successful business from startup was the response that I got.
Mm. Well,
Jake, can you mute me for a minute?
well,
I want to jump in. I wasn't a fly on the wall with those conversations. I'm just gonna share my personal experience, which I'm in agreement with everybody else, which is just to be careful. Don't say yes right away. It's, you know, obviously it's a great way to build capacity up front, you know, to be able to do more in a shorter amount of time. But you really have to, just the same way that you're looking at your financial projections, look at the different scenario projections of, with this person involved, with them not involved, with these 3 or 4 partners, you know, I mean, just look at the different scenarios, but not just at the numbers. Look at what they're going to bring to the table, because them just wanting to be on the success train, I mean, everybody wants to be on a success train, you know, but what are they really going to bring to the table? You know, and if it's the case that people are just really seeing dollar signs when they hear about your business, then you have all the cards. That means that you don't have to accept money from everybody who wants to be on your success train. You can really be picky and choosy about the ones who not just are only interested in the money, but who really care about you personally, about your personal success, and really want to have a relationship with you and the business over time as it grows. So I would just, you know, I mean, you sound very smart and like you really have it together, but just that extra word of caution as you choose the particular people to take along with you in your company.
all right. And just to kind of jump in, April hit the nail on the head. What does that person bring to the company? Because if I'm getting an investor that wants a say in a company, I need to know what, not just what you want to have a say in, but what resources are you bringing to the table. If it's just financial resources, I'll treat you as a silent partner, because that's, to me, that's what banks are, silent partners that just supply the financing, the funding. But if you actually bring some type of resources to, like, take for instance the people you see on Shark Tank, all those judges have some substantial resources that they actually bring to the equation outside of that financial investment. And the reason that's important is because if I know that they're giving me $1 million to make this business successful, and they have resources to back it up, I know that they're gonna be more likely to help me keep the train going so that it can see that return on investment. They're not just trying to be a passenger on that train. They're actually trying to help the train move, rather than having somebody saying, I want to be a partner, and they're not, they really don't bring anything to the table that's substantial. So if I do look for somebody if I do consider somebody's offer to invest into the business in exchange for a piece of the company, they really need to come with something substantial to the table, especially if I know that this is a company that I'm gonna make a lot of money off of. I want somebody that's gonna put in the work too, not somebody that's gonna just kind of be there and lay on my leg.
Yeah, I think that's what sort of adds to the complicated factor of, you know, even considering, is because there's a network of physicians, and they're saying, like, bringing in referrals from, you know, their colleagues, and they may need, you know, employees trained, and just who they know, and the amount of referrals, potential referrals for students and all of that would be their way of helping the company, or, you know, helping to build or branch out, just to help with growth in general. So I don't
I'm
know if
sorry.
that's a fair trade-off, or, you know, if,
Wait.
you know, I just don't want to be gullible because I'm not, you know. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, Angel. Okay. So are they offering a financial investment along with referrals in exchange for a percentage of your company? Is that what the offer is?
Yes.
Okay. I would say that does sound fairly reasonable depending on exactly how much they're asking. But I would ask around, because there are lots of physician groups and lots of schools and employers who would have an interest in that. And those would be your clients, not, you know, like not necessarily partners. You know, so I mean, you can get those referrals without giving away equity in your company. So I'll always keep that in mind. You know, if that's their bargaining chip, is that they're going to bring that. And I'm assuming it's a decent amount of money as well. But, you know, just if I would say that when you reach back out to SCORE to talk, you know, directly about your situation, talk through the different levels of bargaining that you may want to go through, because it's not like it's a bad offer, but it just depends on how much they're asking for in return, because certainly the referrals are something you can build up on your own, or just, you know, get from other networking, you know, sources.
Yeah, there's actually a comment in a chat section that I like. Chandra, I hope I pronounced that right. She says it may be a better idea to pay them a certain amount per lead. Mm-hmm. And that's actually common in a lot of industries. They're called referral fees, commissions, or what have you. Basically, it's just outsourcing. It's just outsourcing lead generation. So rather than having to give up a part of your company to get the leads, you pay your lead sources a certain percentage for the business. Now, each industry has their own rules and regulations on how to do it, but it's definitely it can definitely be done. And just to give you an example of like different rules and regulations that's industry specific. When I was doing IT sales, we didn't have any too many rules about, okay, if somebody sends you a client that you have to pay him a certain way, I can just write it into just write them a voucher and have them get their referral fee. Whereas as a real estate agent, there's different things that has to be in place to do referrals. Most common is the person who's doing the referrals has to be another real estate agent. But there's different ways to do it. There's different regulations for industry specific processes, but it's still possible to do it that way, rather than saying, okay, I'm gonna give you this percentage of my company in exchange for a lead source. What else I was gonna say? We do have one other question in here. Any tips on networking events during the pandemics while most events have been postponed? Somebody was saying something?
I'll jump in here. So we talked a little bit about this last time, with just, you know, everything. You know, of course, many events have just simply been canceled or postponed indefinitely, but many have very successfully transitioned online. You know, just like how we're having our, our town hall virtually every month now. And we're pretty low tech, but a lot of the more groups who've been or rather who are specifically designed for networking, they really have put a lot of effort into creating exciting virtual experiences, from just a simple Zoom call to some other platforms where it's like you're literally going from a room to a room or up an elevator, to this area to talk to these people. And so it's very creative. And of course, it's not the same as being there in real life. But I mean, honestly, for example, I'm like Jay, I'm also an introvert. Being able to go from room to room virtually is a lot less intimidating for me than going room to room in person. For one thing, sorry if this is too much information, but if I start sweating profusely because I'm so nervous, nobody has to know that if I'm just clicking on the computer versus, having to go into the room like that in real life. So that's one thing, just in terms of the possibilities of what you can experience when you show up to a virtual networking event. But then two, of how do you find out about it? Well, there's a couple of probably, I would say maybe 2 or 3 really good ways. One is that many are listing their virtual events on the usual places like Eventbrite.com is a good source. Of course, Facebook, LinkedIn, but then also just sort of. For example, if there was a group that you were following before, like the chambers, or I'm not really into networking, so I can't think of any off the top of my head, but like I don't know, this great group of women, their group, may have transitioned and, will be meeting on a specific platform. And so if there's a particular group you want to be able to meet with, you'll just have to go directly to their site or to their group, or join their email list to find out what platform are they using, so that you can be familiar with it ahead of time. Otherwise, definitely, if you're not already on LinkedIn, I cannot stress enough that that is where people are, people who may be your suppliers down the line, or who may be the rep at the physicians group. All of those people in those types of positions maintain a professional profile on LinkedIn, and many are very actively involved in a group on LinkedIn, or simply on posting on their profile, trying to make those connections. I can't recommend that enough. Jay, did you have any other suggestions?
I'll double back on the chambers. I would definitely suggest connecting with the chambers. One of the reasons is because you'll meet people at the chamber virtual events that are part of other groups. So like I've met people that were with not the homeowner association, but home builders association, and I was able to start going to their events. The chamber is a good central point to start meeting new people that have access to these different groups. The other thing is connecting with the nonprofits, especially since we're all entrepreneurs, connecting with the nonprofit business development organizations, your SCORES, your SBDCs, your Fund 17s, your urban leagues, because they have different events like we're hosting right now, where you get to have these conversations. There's virtual classrooms that they've started up where you can talk amongst other classmates, and you'll get to know more and more people, so you can start building a new business network. Even though we have shifted to a virtual platform, the rules of the game are pretty much the same. It's just finding ways to get out there. So definitely connecting with your nonprofit business development organizations, especially while we're hosting different events, different classes, because you can learn while you're connecting with people and connecting with like your chambers of commerce and participating in their virtual sessions. I've seen them do virtual happy hours. I've seen them, I know the New Orleans Chamber, I think, shifted their virtual, their power lunches into the virtual platforms, which during the power lunch, it lets you practice your 60-second elevator pitch. So everybody's been shifting to that online environment, so we can still keep making those connections. Because that's one of the things you have to keep in mind about a lot of these organizations is that's one of their focal points is helping you make connections.
Right.
So, and it looks like we are at 7:30, so I know we're having a good conversation, but I don't want to keep people too long. So we'll start with our closing, any closing statements we have. Miranda, you still there?
Yes, I am. Hi. Yeah, I think everyone.
Oh, so you want to say anything to help close us out?
I think everyone touched on a lot of great points. And yeah, it's been great to hear from all of you, and you definitely brought up a lot of things that I'd also like to look into more myself. So yeah, thank you all for being here.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing all that information with us. April, would you like to say any words before we close out?
Thanks, Jay. I just want to thank everybody for joining us this time. Thank you for participating, for bringing your questions, your concerns, and also for sharing your own experiences and insights with our guests. Be sure to join us back here each month and get in touch with us between times. You're welcome to email us. Jay will share the email that we use for this if any questions come up before next time. Thanks again.
All right. For Doc, do you have anything?
No, I just enjoyed the sessions, and I hope we help everybody and also just take advantage of all of those resources that we have.
Definitely. So we're going to start closing out. I want to thank everybody for coming. We'll run through a few slides right quick. Be sure to visit neworleans.org/SBVTH. That's our small business virtual town hall webpage. Does have the links to our previously recorded sessions, link to our upcoming workshops, some community resources, and our community resilience hub. So it has some great resources on that page that you might want to take a look at. Also, want to thank Miranda for coming and representing Fund 17 for us today, sharing some great information. If you want to reach out to Fund 17 and check out any of their programs that might be right for you, or get some information from them, you can visit fund17.org, or you can call 046564176. As always, we are powered by the SBA. Our local SBA office website is sba.gov, LA. We did have Ms. Joanne Lawrence earlier on the call to give us some great information. So if you want to reach out to them, of course, go to their website, or you can reach out by phone at 504-589-6685. Our next virtual town hall will be, of course, the first Thursday every month. The next one is November. We say 6 to 7, but we always go a little bit over. Next month we will be touching on some small business marketing tips and techniques, because we are going into a major shopping season. I know we are in the new normal right now. It's still a major shopping season. We'll kind of give you some tips and techniques on how to connect with your clients and market your business, especially in these months. If you have any questions or need to reach out to anybody, my score email, and I'll connect you with anybody that you want to reach out to. It's jeremy.reed@fundraising.org. Just give me shoot me an email if you have any questions or if you want to get any of the resources that we mentioned earlier. Other than that, just want to thank everybody for coming, for sharing some great information today. And I look forward to seeing everybody next time. So until then, y'all have a great evening.
Thanks. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.